my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, May the 7th, and it has been a perfectly pleasant day. Not super warm. It's bad when I try to do weather math. So the high today was about 18 degrees Celsius, which is about, it's in the low 60s. Sorry, I know. It's bad doing weather math on the fly. It is Sunday, the day after the coronation, but I dressed up today in coronation-ish-esque attire, not like I was ever invited to the coronation. And I have to say I'm really disappointed that there were no tiaras for the coronation, that everybody was supposed to wear their hats and things. So despite the fact that I was fully expecting that I was going to be able to haul out my tiara and wear it for today's Flosstube in honor of King Charles's request for, you know, daytime wear, I'm wearing my fascinator that you've seen before. In fact, I had a totally different outfit planned. I actually, believe it or not, do have more than one fascinator. That's a whole other story in and of itself. And so I had a whole other outfit planned so I could roll out one of the other fascinators, and then I went, but it's not gonna coordinate with my coronation badge. And like, sorry, you can't clash. Like that's gonna be wrong, right? With that, this is a channel about cross-stitching and crocheting and a variety of topics. As you will have seen from the title of this episode, it is called Coronation Stitching and Haula-Palooza. And it really should say Haul-a-Palooza. It's bad. It's bad. The piles around me are out of control. That's all I can say. Out of control, out of control. I'm going to do Haula-Palooza at the very, 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 very end, because I know not everybody cares about Haula-Palooza for 27 reasons. Some people love Haula-Palooza, so it's going to be at the very, 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 very end so that people can decide for themselves. So if you are a new Stitcher, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me, and then I hope you enjoy what you see. And for those of you that are returning viewers, thank you for coming back, despite that the last two videos have been completely off schedule. A friend of mine, quite frankly, said, could you get back on schedule? I have a schedule that you fit into, and you're screwing up my schedule. So I'm desperately trying to get it back onto schedule. I'm filming a little bit later than I was expecting, because I had to get Haula-Palooza out here and get organized. And as I was getting Haula-Palooza organized, you know, you get distracted for all the right-ish reasons. This is going to be a long video. I feel like it's going to be movie length for sure. So for those of you who love movie length, you're welcome. For those of you who can't stand movie length, don't forget you can always pause and come back to me later. The video will still be here. I myself have done that on, you know, there are certain videos that take a long time. You just sort of go, I only have X amount of time today for you and Y amount of time for you tomorrow. So don't forget, you can just pause and come back. I'll still be here, faithfully sitting in the land of YouTube. Not a ton of comments on last week's video, not surprisingly, because it got up late and I'm back here. I'm trying to be on time. With it being what I feel is going to be movie length, it's still going to take longer to get uploaded, but I'm really going to try to make sure that it is up and live on Monday, probably Monday morning by the time everything gets done and dusted. So from the comments last week, just a couple of things. So thank you for the comment on how the shoes went very well with my outfit last week, even though, okay, technically I wasn't wearing them while I was filming, but I was just like, made an outfit. And I enjoyed the commenter who totally understood, where he said, even though it's May, where I live up here in Canada, I'm in the province of Alberta, we are still at risk of the very, very scary 4-letter S word, which I'm not going to say out loud because I'm not a fan of that one. I appreciated that, that the commenter spelled it out so that we were very clear that we both knew which 4-letter S word we were talking about. And we were in agreement about what that was, and we share the same sentiment, so that was appreciated. And just one last comment for Angie from 2 videos ago, who was commenting, left that fantastic comment about, is there any way that we can blame Cheryl for my hair starting to go curly? And as you will notice, I'm still trying to work my way through what to do with my newfound hair and what I'm doing. And anyway, it's going to be an adventure. But I was talking to Cheryl this weekend, not surprisingly. So dear Angie, she thought your comment was fantastic. She loved it, and she is totally fine with being blamed for my hair. Because so far, this is her favorite out of all the hairstyles I have showcased since I started Flosstube 3 years ago, which is a topic which we'll get to in just a bit. But yeah, it's another benefit of Flosstube. Wow, you really get to see your hair journey, and some of those videos, those pictures that show up, you're like, wow, that was a really bad hair day. Even last week, I was like, wow, that was not necessarily a good hair day, but that's just how life works. But anyway, so thank you for those comments. Thanks for coming back. I just want to take a little bit of a stop here before we get into everything that is surrounding me. So I live in Alberta, Canada. I live in the southern part of the province, but we are experiencing wildfire season has started for us, and it has started in full force. So the news today was that we have over 100 wildfires that are currently active within the province. Over 30 of those are out of control. Things are raging. People have lost homes. It's awful. There are firefighters that are being dispatched from other provinces to come and help out. So thoughts, prayers, particularly for safety for everyone. People living close to the fires, the firefighters who are working in incredibly horrendous conditions to try to help get these fires under control. So safety first, because you know it's my safety first, and then really if we could get some rain. There's a little bit of rain in the forecast. It's nowhere near what we need. We are at the very, very beginning of the fire season, so it's probably going to be bad this summer, which is not great. If you are someone who is living close to one of the areas that is near a fire, just want to say a quick word about saying pack your go bag in advance. Certainly when the big fires that pretty much wiped out Fort McMurray again in the northern part of the province, you know, there were a lot of people, the stories where it's like, you know, we'd sort of seen where things were going, and, you know, the town was on top of sort of letting people about, you know, how much time they're expected to have. But the forest fire moved very, very quickly, unexpectedly, and people were caught scrambling to get out of town. So even if you don't think if you're somewhere within in distance that potentially, if it's spread, you could be at risk, put your go bag together now. It's way harder when you're feeling stressed, and if things have changed unexpectedly, better to have a go bag now. You'll feel better. So anyway, okay, with that, let's get into some stitching. This has not been my most productive week for a variety of reasons, which you're all going to see as we talk about things. So one of the reasons is that normally I'd be telling you what I did on Sunday night, but I told that to you in last week's video anyway. All right, let's get started. It's chaos here. I just can't get over it. So let's talk about the first thing I started stitching on Monday night after everything was being worked on. Because May for me is Mirabilia May. plus a couple of other things. And even as I was putting this together, could I find the Mirabilia chart? No. Fortunately, I had already printed this out before. I am working on a carry forward whip, which is April's Blue Diamond by Mirabilia. I am stitching this on a 32 count Aerial Lugana by Picture This Plus. Yeah, like I don't have anywhere to put this piece of paper. Anyway, this is going to be a thing. All right, let's keep going. So I stitched on this a couple of times this week. So here's where we're at. Given the length of this, I'm not doing editing, so you'll have to go back and see where I was last week. So I finished filling in this bottom part of the ribbon. There's more ribbon above it, but we'll talk about why I didn't do that. I filled in, so I was doing a number of things where I'd started off where I was trying to do some color completion of colors and then moving into try to get these flowers filled in. So I have this pattern in Markup RXP, and the way, you know, it's one of those Mirabilia patterns, which is like, you know, it feels like it's 2 feet by 3 feet. It's not that big, but anyway, it's a bit of a bear. And so the way I scanned it in, it's sitting in my app as 3 distinct pages. And so what I've set the goal for myself is step number 1 is let's just make sure that I get all of this, so it's pretty much from just, actually technically a little below the top of this green here. Everything below that is one of the pages. And so my goal is step number 1. Let's just get all of that completed, including the back stitching. Now, it doesn't have all of these flowers, but I kind of said to myself, you will feel better if you can say, okay, at least one of the 3 pages is complete. There is a little bit of beading on here, but it's not out of control for the bottom part of this. Once you get into this lovely skirt area, all of that is beads. So there's a lot more there. So I was going to finish this and then start working my way up. So step number 1, get at least one of the 3 pages done. Man, there's a lot left to go on this piece. But, you know, was coming along, made some progress. A decent number of stitches this week. I feel like when I look at it, it doesn't look like I've made huge progress. But it's been nice sort of getting the number of colors complete on that page done, and I felt like I was making progress. You know, certainly in these flowers, you've got a number of different color changes and all that kind of stuff. So I was just sort of going and picking and choosing and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll make more progress on this week, a lot more progress, but I am behind on something else and you'll see why. Okay. I know. Yep. It's anywho. I just thought about going, wait a minute, where's the rest of it? Okay. I know where the rest of it is. Ooh. I know, piles are slipping. It's going to be bad. Bad, 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 bad. Okay. Alrighty. So then I was like, okay. So I started on Monday, did some stitching on that, and I'm like, okay, great. But I need to get cracking on my May Quaker, which is by From the Heart Needleart by Wendy. I am stitching this on a 40 count white Verdal, which is an even weave. And last week I said that I was stitching this with the called for fibers, which I am not. I'm mostly stitching it with the called for fibers, except for the darkest color. The darkest color that is called for is camouflage. And apparently when I was kitting this up last year, whatever camouflage was available to me did not work for me. And so the color that I showed last week, as if it was the called for, which it's not, is, so the color that I'm using for the dark is Classic Colorworks Erin Go Emerald. So a very dark green. The other two colors, which are Pickled Beets and I want to say it's lemongrass. Those are called for. So 2 out of the 3 are called for. The dark one is Erin Go Emerald. And this is just going to be a disaster. Okay, I'm going to leave them here just in case I decide I need to talk about it again. It is chaos. Chaos! It's bad. Bad, bad, bad. Okay. That isn't going to work. Already I'm flummoxed. All right. Let's hope this works. So, this is bad. Apparently I can't count accurately anymore. So here's where I'm at. So it started off really lovely, and I was working on all my lovely dark greens as usual because I have an idiosyncrasy that I need my work to be centered on the piece of fabric I'm using. I'm a center starter, so I started here with this, worked the way down, did all of the dark green. See, it's a good thing I didn't throw this over the end. I did all of the dark green that's sort of full motifs from that motif there down. So all of the dark green is there. This is all of that dark green again, but that was a big motif. And then I started on, whoops, it would help if I showed you the correct side. No, that was correct. Good grief. I can't even, it's because I saw it from this side. It was like, ooh, that's wrong. All right. So I did all of that, and then I came around and I started doing all of the outer rim of this next motif that has the word May in it. And I came within 10 stitches of it being complete. And you want to know what happened? It didn't match up. And you want to know where it's wrong? Right here. I started here and was working my way around, and it is wrong right there. From here on, it is completely wrong. So this is why you've got this thread that's hanging over the thing, because I am now unstitching. I have to unstitch all the way back to here. So it's really like from being almost 100% complete on that, on the light green part of that motif, I am going to be back to 30% on that. That was not fun. And I started unpicking, and it was depressing. So I kind of unpicked some and went, first of all, it's not fun unstitching on 40 count, but I'm going to do it because it's over dyed threads, and anyway, it's me. I'm going to do that anyway. And then I'm going to have to restitch it all anyway. So hopefully tomorrow it's going to be, anyway, super depressing. So I am way behind where I was hoping to be by now. Way behind. And then the day after that was Friday, and I had a lot going on that day. And I just was like, I'm also not in the mood to unstitch this, which is when I did a little bit more on my April's Blue Diamond. So I am way behind on my Quaker again. I need to work on that. Really don't know where to. Okay, this really, I should have brought another. I know, it's bad. Okay, I have to use all the things. All right, which brings us to Saturday, and one of the topics for this week's video is coronation stitching, which we're going to deal with here shortly. So I had this beautiful plan in my head that I had done a bunch of errands on Friday so that I could have a fabulously open stitching day on Saturday, and I could watch the coronation and 27 things. And as I always do, I tell myself, given the time difference, that I am not going to be awake in the middle of the night to watch it live. I tell myself that every time. So far, I've never really been successful at that. So sure enough, in the middle of the night, I think my head just knows that it's going on. So sure enough, in the middle of the night, I was up watching the Coronation live. Live. Yeah, crazy. And I had a whole plan that sort of, as I was watching sort of the lead up into the Coronation, I was going to stitch on my Queen Elizabeth memorial piece by Helen Philipps off of Etsy. And then for the Coronation, I was going to stitch on my new Coronation piece. Well, I also went, you're terrible at starting pieces. It's your least favorite activity. So I also said to myself, just put your first length of thread into your Coronation piece, because then you can work on your Queen Elizabeth, and then whenever it starts and 27 things, you'll be ready to go, and you won't be sitting there trying to fuss starting it and getting it centered and all the things that bother me, which is exactly what I did. I got in there, I got my first length of thread, I put it all in, had tied it off. I was like, okay, great, we are ready to go. And then I looked at it and went, wait a minute. I had oriented my fabric the wrong way. So there I was. So instead of stitching on Queen Elizabeth, I did my first length of thread, realized I'd completely screwed it up. That one I ripped out because I was mad. It was DMC. I ripped that one out, got that one off, and then I had to put it back in so I'd be ready to go, and by that time we were starting. So I will show you my Queen Elizabeth piece, which nothing has changed on. Nothing has changed on it since the last time you saw it. I got nothing stitched on this. Oh well, best of intentions, right? But I did work on my Coronation piece, and I did get a healthy chunk of stitching in on Saturday. So part of that plan worked out. So this is the Coronation of King Charles III by Cosford Rise Designs, Cosford Rise Stitchery. I got this off of Etsy. The link to it will be in the notes section down below. It probably says it right here, Cosford Rise Stitchery. Okay, I got that one right. I am stitching this on a 32 count white opalescent Lugana. I failed miserably at posting on Instagram, so hopefully in the next day or so I'll actually get this posted on Instagram, because it'll come up again. Because, you know, I was pulling my stuff together late on Friday night, going, you have to be ready. And I was looking at the dimensions of this particular piece, and I was looking at the numbers, and I was like, well, but you're planning on displaying it in the same, in a tin, in a tea tin, which I don't own yet, that is the same size as the other royal tins that I have bought for the Queen Elizabeth pillows. Anyway, so then of course I had to come back downstairs, get a tea tin, go back up, haul out the measuring tape, figure out what my thing was going to look like. Originally I was going to do it on 28 count white opalescent Lugana, just like the Queen Elizabeth ones, but the dimensions are just that much bigger and I needed to be just a little bit smaller, so I moved it up to 32. And I pulled all of the called for flosses. Right? Just went along. It was all DMC. It was great. Pulled all the flosses, got them together, and then I was looking at it and going, well, where is this being used? And wait a minute, where is that being used? Now it's going to get confusing because now I have more colors on here than are called for. Yes. Okay. So this is the called for palette. Which, you know, generally kind of looks okay. I'm losing some stuff here. Anyway, but I was like, Anyway, I just threw it together and then, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, as I was starting to stitch, I was like going, so one of the colors, of course, is white. And I was like, I should maybe look at that and figure out where it's being used, because I am stitching on white opalescent fabric, but the cover photo is on white, so maybe it'll work out. And it is used, now, some of it's hard to see. So clearly it's used in the flag, which I will do totally fine just to keep the texture of all of that. So it's all of the flag is stitched in DMC. It's also used in the crowns in here. I was like, okay, well, I looked at that and went, well, that's not going to work for me. I can't do that, no. So I, of course, at that point was just like, well, you were planning on changing other things anyway. No big deal. And I'm watching the Coronation. And so I was kind of looking at the color that they used for this crown, which is the St. Edward's crown. And I was like going, well, that's not accurate, because I'm watching the Coronation right now, and that's not really the color. The called for color for the cipher here is actually very close. So I didn't have to come up with a new color, but I was neurotic enough to be using one of my devices with my DMC color card with a big picture of the crown on my device, trying to, you know, color match it with DMC. Hey, if anybody can take a pattern and make it infinitely more hard than it needs to be for irrational reasons, you know that is me. I do that all the time. Anyway, so I changed that out. And as I was stitching along, I said to myself, my goal for the day was that I wanted to have, also, not surprisingly, so the gold in the crowns and the scepters and the orbs are all going to be done not in DMC. I'm going to do them in Rainbow Gallery Petite Treasure Braid. And I'm using the same color of gold that I used in my Queen Elizabeth ones, which is PB01 is what I'm using to do all of those. But so far, I am happy with how it's looking. So again, this is 32 count white opalescent fabric. So I got all of my effectively regalia-esque in there. Well, the gold parts of it. I acknowledge that there are not two orbs. This is supposed to be the Sovereign's Scepter with the Cullinan diamond in it. Now, the funny thing is I was trying to look up what the name for this is, and this particular piece is shown on the Royal Trust's website, but once you get in there, I can't find out what it is, and it was not used, as far as I can tell, in King Charles's coronation. He was presented with another scepter, which is a scepter that has a white dove on top of it, so not the one with the cross, but can't find it. And I know that these are just decorative, but I was totally fine putting them in. Now, the white is also used in these crowns down here. So I am planning on going back in and, you know, like, so the empty spots here in the crown, those are supposed to be filled in with DMC. I am fully planning on going up to my bead stash, and I will either be using beads or Krynic or Petite Treasure Braid or something. So everything that's sort of filling in these regalia items, like it would be lovely if I could find sort of like a larger clear bead that I could throw in there to fill in my regalia for King Charles. So happy with my progress on this. I'm glad that I got all of the Petite Treasure Braid in. It was very funny. I was getting ready to stitch it, so I was already annoyed with myself because I'd had to, you know, anyway, whatever, it got done. I was getting ready to start working on my Petite Treasure braid, and I was like, because I was feeling like I was behind, I was like, okay, so you just need to keep going, use the same needle that you've got. And I said to myself, oh my goodness, how many times on Flosstube have you told people that one of the secrets to, you know, not having a horrible experience with metallics is go up a needle size? So why are you just stop for the 32.5 seconds it will take you to go get a different needle. I was so glad I did. As soon as I started stitching with the Rainbow Gallery, I was just like, oh my goodness, exactly. This is exactly why I go up a needle size. It just made it so much better. So there we go. I was going to say this, we're going to turn this into a screenshot because there is my, let's see, my dressing up for King Charles's coronation. Not that I wore this on the day he's being crowned, but whatever. My coronation outfit, my coronation badge, and my coronation stitching that I did on Saturday, May the 6th. So there is my coronation stitching. All right. Chaos. Oh my goodness, the chaos. Okay, I just had a moment going, wait a minute, where's the, okay. All right, let's do a quick little bit about announcements. Just a quick reminder, I didn't get the email out, so it's going out hopefully tomorrow. It's like, yeah, by the time I do all of my video stuff, it'll go out tomorrow. If you are in the Greater Calgary area, Saturday, May the 20th at the Signal Hill Library, we will be doing Stitching at the Library. It is open to all. It is from 9:30 to 12:30, whether you come for all of the time or a bit of the time. As I've said before, if you're in the area and you just want to stop in and say hi and see what people are stitching on, you are more than welcome to do that as well. Yeah, so we'll be stitching at the library. I know that that's the Victoria Day long weekend here in Alberta, so I know that there could be lots of people off doing random things, but there are some of us where our long weekend plans is I was staying home anyway, and that's when the library is available. So we will be stitching at the library. So if you are able to come, we would love to see you and meet you and stitch with you and do all those kinds of things. So open to all. Love to see you. All right, let's talk about stitching plans for this week. So I'm behind on my Quaker, so I really need to get after it this week. I know I'm going to be tempted to be distracted by a whole ton of things that need to be organized. And anyway, I need to be very disciplined this week, and get my May Quaker. My May Quaker needs to have a big dent, but I also want to make sure that I'm making progress on my Mirabilia. Tonight's project, of course, is I get to start on a new alphabet project. Since I finished my spring ABCs in uberly awesome, fantastic speed, very, very pleased with that. So I've got time to move on to another. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I will show you the palette because true to form, I am uncertain as to which fabric I'm going to stitch on. I think I have the answer, but I've had the fabric out for a couple of days. So it's me. Even finally deciding on this fabric for this one, I hauled out 10 pieces of fabric. I got it narrowed down to 2, and I'm debating the 2. So here is the palette-ish. And yeah, I can already see people going, sorry, ish? What do you mean ish? Okay, so here is the palette for the new one. So this is Classic Colorworks Bamboo. I have decided that I'm probably going to replace that with, I'm going to haul out my Cosmo floss, Cosmo 100. So not the bright, bright white, but just more of a white. You know, bamboo is a little softer. It's hard to tell in the screen, but the Cosmo 100 is a white. So I'm going to do that. I'm okay with my green. I'm debating between my reds. This is licorice red versus ribbon red. I don't think this is quite red enough for me in daylight light as opposed to later than it should be with a ring light. And I think licorice red is maybe a little too bright, so I've got to make a decision on that. Now, I don't need to make that decision tonight. So I've hauled out a couple. I may need to revisit what's actually going to happen with that, but it's going to be gisty in there. The hickory sticks is called for, and I'm sticking with that. This is roasted chestnut. This is for trees, and it's too brown for me. So I'll probably swap that in for like a Weeks Dye Works Mocha, just like I did on the other one. So that will change-ish. And here are the two fabric choices that I have hauled out. The called for fabric is Vintage Tundra by Lakeside Linens. So this is option number 1. Now it's coming, yeah, that's about right. So I think the white will be fine on here. Again, make that just slightly more brown, not so goldy colored. That's option number 1. And option number 2 is a 28 count sage green Lugana. I think this is a little too green. As I say, and in the screen, it's looking very green. But yes, I think the answer is this Springfield Sage Lugana is what I'm going with. This is the piece of fabric that I bought in Edmonton at the Craft Connection, which is closed now. They've retired, sold their business to someone else. So, and it did get moved. So it's still technically there is a business, but it is no longer in, I'm calling it Edmonton proper. It's in a sort of outlying suburb, St. Albert. Anyway, so yes, I think it's, yeah, I think this is what I'm going to go with. So while this is processing and while I'm getting supper, I will need to cut my fabric and get ready to get started on that. Okay, next up, crocheting because of Cheryl. I didn't get any crocheting done this week, which I'm totally fine with. I'm totally fine with. So there you go. So with that, we are now going to be entering the Haul-a-palooza section of this video. So if that isn't your jam, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. I hope to see you again. Hopefully I will be here regularly scheduled next week on my next Sunday. If you're leaving at this juncture, don't forget, stay safe, stay healthy, find some time to do some stitching. For those of you that are here for Haula-Palooza, this is really a decent time to just put a little bit of a pause on if you need to take care of some basic requirements, beverage things. When I was talking to Cheryl, I said, man, it's going to be a long one. She said, oh yeah, I'm planning on watching it tomorrow. Feet up, cup of tea in hand. You just go as long as you want. Because everything that you are about to see, this was the weekend of the Ujamaa Grandma's Fabric and Yarn sale. And I made out like a bandit. Badly. Restraint fell away anyway. You're gonna see all the things. I made out like a bandit. All right, so we're gonna do them I'm gonna end off with the actual cross stitching things last. So I'm gonna start off with, I know you're like, sorry, what? I'm gonna start off with the other things first. So one of the things that I had talked about was that I was going to this sale, and I was really hoping to see if I couldn't get a yarn winder while I was there. And I was successful with some assistance by a friend. So I walked out of there with my, well, it says a wool winder. There were actually two of them. So the friend that was there at the sale with me, I got one and she got the other one, which was great. They were the same price. The funny thing is, hers looks a little bit newer than this one, but I took this one because it came in a box. And I'm going to do better when I store this to sort of go, oh yes, that's the box with the winder in it. So it's, you know, did it come home like, you know, in the last year? Probably not, given it's a little yellow, but they were two. They were the same size, 27 things. It says new, as far as everybody can tell. It's just fine. And by the way, it was $8. So really, how wrong can you go? And the funny thing is, I came home, I was like, okay, I've got this. I want to come home and I want to, you know, wind some yarn right away. Because I remember when I was talking about it, I had like these, you know, floppy balls of yarn that I was working with. Well, I've stitched enough on my granny square that those floppy balls of yarn were completely used up, and I'm now into like really solid ones. So anyway, it did not get put to use, although I came home going like, let's just wind something. It didn't happen, but I at least have it, which is awesome. So that was great. So there was a crazy amount of yarn there. And as I had said in previous videos, you know, like if you're coming to this yarn sale looking for, you know, a ton of identical yarn, you know, unless somebody bought it like that, it's not there. And they had, you know, all these bags, and they did great jobs of putting like ones together so that you could sort of, like, there were bags that I looked at and I went, oh yeah, I can see how that combination, like somebody can turn that into something really fantastic. The combinations weren't necessarily for me, and, you know, I'm particular about how the yarn feels. You know, I'm planning on using my yarn for crocheting projects. There are school teachers that come to this sale who are doing art projects, right? You're doing an art project. You need yarn. Like, you know, this is the yarn sale for you, let me tell you. And I was talking to one lady, and she said, you know, she's a teacher in a low-income neighborhood, and she was there really to just get some resources, you know, for fantastic prices, where she can just bring it in and let the kids, you know, that the kids can go home with yarn to do whatever they want to do with, and she can just take it to school and give it to kids that are interested in doing crafting things, which I think is fantastic. She walked out. I was following her, and I said, like, I think I need to go ahead of you and hold doors or carry something for you. Can I help? And because she had quite a load, and she had a helper who had quite a load, so they made out great, which is fantastic. I made out pretty well too. I came home with more than I was expecting. So, because the first one, because you know how I just said, like, you know, you can't necessarily get a lot of the same one unless it comes packaged like that. There's 23 balls of yarn in this. Now, it clearly it was packaged together to make this project, which I haven't even gotten as far as whether this is a knit pattern or if the pattern's really in here or not. I just went, it's 23 balls of purple yarn. I feel like that is going to go well with something that could be made for this room. Yeah, anyway. So there's yarn purchase number 1. And these are never coming back out. Yarn purchase number 2 was also purple. Now, I will say on screen, this is coming out like it doesn't coordinate very well, but this actually does coordinate very well with this. So this is 6 balls of homespun yarn by Lion Brand. So I was very happy. Again, I was just grateful that there was more than one. I got this bag of, so this is a combination. I'll just take a second. This is yarn that is 70% merino wool, 30% silk, and there's anyway, there's a number of them in here. I haven't sorted it all out. I was like, it felt nice. It was a good, you know, it's navy. It's a good color, blah, 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 blah. A really good price. It came home. We'll solve what we're doing for this at a later date. And the last bit of yarn, also navy. So this is Charisma, which is a 5-weight yarn by Loops and Threads. 3 balls in this bag, and I'm showing this because, so it does come with this pattern for this cowl, which I like the concept, but the pattern is a knitting pattern. And for any of you out there who are already sitting there with a little smirk on your face saying, Judy, you just need to learn how to knit and you're going to solve your problem, that is not the correct solution to this problem. I would like, so, and I looked at this and I said, this is great. It says that you need 2 balls to make this. I have 3 balls. Surely I can come up with a crochet pattern that's going to come up with something that looks a lot like that, because that's really what I would like to use this for. So dear smart crocheters out there, if you know of a really good crochet pattern that will come up with a cowl that looks, you know, very similar to that, that would be awesome if you could let me know what that is, either in the comments, or you can send me an email to citystitcher52@gmail.com, because I've got three balls of this. And just in case anybody's wondering, how much did I pay for my 3 balls? $4. $4 Canadian. Isn't that just going to make a fantastic project? All right. Let's move into a section of things that I bought at the sale that you're just going to go, I'm sorry, what? So it is a fabric and yarn sale. I am a person who, I would have said, if you had asked me 12 months ago, there was no fabric in my house. I am not a sewer. I don't make project bags. I don't make clothes. I don't sew. I don't own a sewing machine. I own none of that. And there was no, I'm not a quilter. My mom's a quilter, but I've said I have enough rabbit holes. I am already down one more rabbit hole than I should be. Cheryl, I'm not going to become a quilter. I appreciate quilting and all the techniques and the 27 things, and I love all of that. I am not going down that rabbit hole. So you would think that even though I was going to a fabric and yarn sale, that the fabrics wouldn't necessarily be top of mind, except that they were. And this is because of Cheryl. This part is Cheryl's fault, because, you know, if we can blame Cheryl for things, we like that. And quite frankly, she's totally fine with it, because she's utterly unrepentant about all of these concepts that she has put into my head. Sorry, I have to juggle things. I think I've been clear that I have a bit of a problem going on, right? I just need to rejuggle some things. Yeah. Okay. Because then I can put everything back the way it was. Okay, so this is Cheryl's fault. Because I don't know whether she showed it on one of her floss tubes or it's one of the things that we talked about at the library. At this sale, they have fabric sample books. And Cheryl absolutely convinced me that these are the bomb if you are doing small finishes. Now, I don't know how to do any of this stuff yet. Cheryl's going to have to help me with that. So if she's going to be the problem child that she is, you know, she's going to have to help on the other end. And I can already hear her, even though I haven't finished recording this and it's not uploaded and she hasn't watched it, somewhere she's at home laughing, going, I don't know why that is, but anyway. So this is Cheryl's fault because she's absolutely right. So here's an example of, let's take the plastic cover off. So this is sort of polyester drapery material that's, you know, supposed to look like silk, right? And you have all of the colors. Not that I think all of the colors are me, but you have all of the colors. And what my plan for these are, I've got a number of, you know, whether it's Stitching with the Housewives or other small charts. And you know that probably 2 summers ago when we had these blocks at Michael's. So I have all of these blocks that are ready to have stitching put onto them that can just be placed around, blah, blah, blah. These are the perfect size for a number of charts that I have. I haven't stitched them, but I have the blocks. And now I'm getting the fabrics because it's going to go on top of here. So I want to make sure that this is completely covered. And these fabric samples also, so by the time you also get them out of where they're tucked into up there, as far as I'm concerned, there is more than enough fabric here. I'll even just do it this way to put it on, whether it's mat board or whatever I choose to do to put it on to be the backing piece to cover this up. Fantastic. And so, you know, so here's one, like I said, so here, there's all, you know, there's all of that color palette of this kind. That's one. I also got this one, which is sort of I would say it's not quite, it's a velvety suede kind of thing, so it's very textural. Now this top piece is a little on the small side, but we'll ignore that one. We'll move right on to piece number 2. It's the same size as the previous one, and you know, again, not that all the neutrals are going to be for me, but there's enough in here that, you know, color palette for me. Look at those navies and burgundies, and ooh, all of that's good. So these are anthology fabric samples. Yes, they're upholstery ones, but backing for pillows or whatever, right? This is, you know, this is a healthy size for backing maybe a Queen Elizabeth pillow or whatever. And so these are the colors in that one. And I've got this one. Yeah, and this one, shinier. And this is the one that I think is probably not my most favorite one, but it came home anyway. once I tell you the price, you'll understand why there's more pieces. So these are the fabric samples that I brought home. And I paid $2. And as I said, the one, whichever that one is, the, you know, which I've said is my least favorite. This one. Worst case scenario, I said this to Cheryl, I'm just going to donate it again next year. It can come right back. For $2, it all came home. So yeah, there's that. Now, what started the problem is, I know. Anyway, it's a problem. It's a problem. Is I was going in there and I was looking really for velvets to back those pillows for Queen Elizabeth and King Charles and, you know, blah, blah, blah pillow backings. Because Cheryl's done a number of them and, like, they were awesome. And anyway, the ones that she did is where she told me that she got the fabric from the Grandma Ujamaa sale. So I went to the area, you know, and again, so I'm not looking for fabric that's like a yard or 2 yards, and like there was fabric on bolts and things like that. Like I don't need that. I'm looking for the small stuff. Anyway, and so we went to the section where like this it's in the home decor section in case anybody's wondering. And so I got this piece. Don't you think that's just going to make a lovely pillow back? Again, these are not, you can tell, they're not like the biggest pieces, but they certainly will make the back of a small pillow. This one's, it's showing up quite gray, but it's quite a silvery teal color. Green. I got another piece of, so this is a bigger, these next pieces are bigger. So this is navy. I got another blue. You just need blue, goes without saying. Here were some that are bigger pieces. This is folded up into, this is a quarter red. This is more of a plum. Dark blue. Not quite navy. Call this more of an American blue. Light green. And lavender. And then I picked up, so they have these pieces, again, because it's just weird leftovers and stuff like that. So I got these pieces. I've got 2 chunks of this. They're triangle shaped. Who cares? Who cares? So this is the folded up triangle. I got 2 of them. It was like, why not? Anyway, the amount I paid for this is like ridiculous. I'm like, so those triangles came home, as did this piece. Wait. As did a big chunk of this, which has a pattern on it. I don't know what I'm going to do, but the price for, anyway, it was a crazy affordable price. And I just went, it's navy blue. It's got a tone on tone damask. I can't leave it behind. I don't know what I'm doing with it, but I'm getting it. So those are the velvets that came in. Sorry. Okay. Now, oh no, there's more fabric. So last year I did all those cottages of the month, which are not going to be framed. I'm planning on doing something or other. I don't know whether it's flat foldy or anyway, we haven't solved that problem, but they are going to need to have fabric backings and 27 other things. So while I was there, I picked up random fabrics because they were there to use for soft finishes. So pillow backs to do flat folds or anyway. Yeah, it's really great when you go with nothing specific and plan, which really is what you need to do at this type of sale because you have no idea what you're going to find. So I just picked up random stuff. So again, here's another sample fabric, purple. You know, surely that should come in use for me. I did get a healthy chunk of just, you know, this is just plain navy fabric. I'm like, that'll me navy, that should go like to 47 different things. This one I specifically got and I brought it home when I went. So it, you know, it's a purples and green polka dotty splotchy thingies. Now, I don't know that this is coming on camera, but I came home and went, oh yeah, that'll work for anything that I want to do, you know, a soft finish that's going to end up in here. And, you know, a decent chunk. And again, so these are just random things because, you know, it's in my color palette. You know, again, so I'm going after the fabric that's not huge chunks. I was just going after the small ones. Blues, greens, you know, red. Yes, as you can tell, I've got a color palette, you know, so it looks black. This is a navy and white polka dot. Really, this is a navy gingham. This is a little more of a, it's more towards the royal blue end. Oh, I went to town on light blue. Green with a metallic thread in it, which is hard to see. You can see a little bit there. Dark green. Yeah, I went to town on the ginghams. Oh yeah, and another gingham. This one, I kind of went, now I don't know what the red is actually supposed to be, but if you were doing like a Christmassy thing on an icy blue background, anyway. Polka dot. Navy and forest green plaid. And another green. Yeah. Who am I? So I do need to work on actually turning things into soft finishes. Now that I have things to work with, I'm not making any promises as to exactly when that's going to happen, but at least I have pretend things to play with while I'm accomplishing that goal. We'll see what happens. You know, with all the velvets, surely my Queen Elizabeth and my King Charles will get turned into pillows with Cheryl's help and advice and 27 things to make that happen. Cheryl. All right. Okay, I'm just looking at, again, the juggling of things. Oh, April's Blue Diamond. Okay. While I was there, I did take a swing through and went, because, you know, I have a serger. So I think each of these bags of serger thread was $1. Maybe $2. Anyway, like really. Those came home. Also, because while I was serging fabric this week, I, you know, ran out of one. So I was like going, well, I'm going to need to replace that. So I've replaced it. Okay. The next one, because we are now heading into the land of stitching. This next purchase is a hugely sentimental purchase. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it, but I just took one look at it and went, ooh. So, it's a needlepoint kit. Needlepoint, yep. Of this poppy pattern. Now, for anybody who lives in around me, it even has the Woodward's price tag. Woodward's was a regional department store here in Alberta and British Columbia that went out of business in like late 1992, early 1993. So Woodward's hasn't existed for a very long time, but I remember Woodward's. I've shopped at Woodward's. Anyway, so this, my aunt who passed away, who was also a cross-stitcher, she did this needlepoint picture, and she had it hanging up in her living room for my whole life. So I always look at this and I think of her. When she passed away, I was secretly hoping that I would maybe get a crack at it. But her oldest son took it. He's the oldest son. He really there's nothing for me to say, but I was like going, I can't not look at this pattern and not think of my aunt, because I've looked at this my whole life. So it's the complete kit. It's got the canvas in there. It's got the pattern. I'm pretty sure it's got all the tapestry wool to do it. I don't know exactly how I'm going to fit this into my plans or what exactly I'm going to do. I mean, I did have a friend who said, well, you could convert this and you could do it as a cross stitch. I don't know. This kit was very economical. For what I paid, even just looking at this box is worth what I paid for it. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. Like, I need to add needlepoint to whatever. Wait till you see all the things. All right. So then I did pick up a couple of kits that would have been sold originally as kits. So Dimensions Gold. So it comes with everything to turn it, all the finishing stuff to turn it into this. You know, the only thing I don't like about Dimensions kit is that the fact it's always stitched on Aida. Anyway, for what I paid for this, I can swap out the fabric. Poinsettias. I have a thing about poinsettias, you know that. As I look at the next one and go, and houses. Yeah, Summer Village is this kit by Busilla. And another Busilla, these ones. So this has got hardanger stuff in it as well. I've got actually a few charts of these where what you're doing is you're really stitching the stuff behind. Well, I say that without having looked at the chart. The ones that I've got are ones where you sort of stitch the stuff behind the windows on one piece of fabric, and then you stitch the outer facade of the houses on a separate one, and you layer them together. I don't know if that's exactly what this one is, but this is a kit, so it does come with the fabric, and I've got my floss, the flosses for it in an unopened bag. So, and then it's a Jeanette Douglas Atlantic Seaboard Sampler. I didn't have this. It's got the sort of her version of Green Gables from Anne of Green Gables in PEI. Talks about the Cabot Trail. And this has been kitted up. So it has got the fabric. This has in fact been started. And it's got the DMC. It's got, they purchased the thread pack, Jeanette's thread pack for it, and the beads. Everything's in here, ready to go. All right, the next two I'm going to show you. I couldn't leave them behind. I couldn't leave them behind. So I started, so the first one I got, which started the problem, came in this bag. Now, this is not like a $20 purchase. This was a more expensive purchase, but for what's in it, like, that's where we go. Unbelievable deal. So this is the beginnings of the kit to do, oops, sorry, I've got notes in this one. That's why it's to do Chatelaine Baroque Gardens. Now, even when I was looking at this, the lady from the sale was like, it says it's fully kitted. We are not guaranteeing that. We are not blah, blah, blah. And I was like, honestly, for the price tag on this, like, you don't need to say anything. It's like, I have stitched chatelaine. You don't need to say anything else to me. She was very concerned that I would maybe purchase it and be unhappy when I got home. I'm not unhappy in the slightest. And I got a bargain. So this is actually has been started. So the pattern is not included, but this is 32 count, 32 count antique white linen. It's been started, so I've got all the linen fabric for it ready to go and started. So I would still need to buy the chart, which is, for what I did, is totally fine. It's not a full kit. But they have bought the bead pack from European Cross Stitch. So I have all of the beads to do it. And oops. Here are all of the silks that came with it. So there are some dinky dye silks. There are, this is where I go. There are 3 skeins of dinky dye silk. So I still need to get some dinky dyes. There are 12 skeins of Gloriana. There are 10 skeins of Silk and Colors by Thread Gatherer silks. And 14 skeins of water lilies. Even if I never stitch this, oh my goodness. Now, I won't necessarily say, like, I would hesitate if I needed to pull something out of these to use for another project. I am treating this like stash, although I need to make a note when I put things in about that these are actually sitting somewhere else because it's part of a kit. But I'm totally willing to raid any of these things. Seriously. Gloriana, do you know how hard it is to get Gloriana these days? these are my colors. I've looked at this chart. It isn't in my top 10 chatelaines, but I have looked at it several times, and I couldn't leave it there. I couldn't leave it there. And there's a whole, I don't know that there's enough Flossaways, but there's a ring of empty Flossaway bags in the thing to do this. Like, it was amazing. Sorry, it's got to go back in its bag. So, none of the rainbow gallery threads for this particular project were in there, and it does, you know, it does call for 18 cards of rainbow gallery petite treasure braid, you know, again, but seriously, this is a huge start for that project. Like, I've made a huge amount of progress on Polar. Anyway, I couldn't leave it there. Now, this wasn't the only chatelaine that was there. I did get another one. And this one, same thing. So here's the problem. I told myself that I was buying this for the colors. So this is, again, another, largely kitted project. This is for the Seville Alcazar Garden, which, you know, I was like, it's okay. But I don't know that I would ever stitch that. And really what I was looking at it was, again, so one, antique white Belfast linen, the big piece that you need for this, which thought I saw it written down how big it was. Anyway, it's a big piece. Now, I don't know that I would stitch this on this, but, you know, so we'll see what I end up doing with the linen. But again, look at these colors. So 18 skeins of Dinky Dyes, 12 skeins of Gloriana. I can't read my own writing. 17 cards of Rainbow Gallery Petite Treasure Braid, and 6 Cairn Water Lilies. Look at those colors. Like, I just looked at this and I went, oh, seriously. And I looked at this and went, that's Velvet Night Sky. It's Gloriana Velvet Night Sky. 2 skeins of it. I will say that this kit was less than $100. I couldn't anyway. So that came home too. And the funny thing is, you know, clearly I've been looking at it since I got home, and I'm going like, it might grow on me. But really, I need to get a grip. It was a steal of a deal, and I couldn't say no. Self-restraint out the window. Which then brings me to charts. We haven't hit the just charts yet. I know. An hour and 18 minutes. Okay. So I picked up a Mirabilia, which I did not have. This is Savannah's Curtsy, which I think is actually out of print. I could be wrong. I don't know. I've liked the concept of this. Now, the funny thing is, so it does have an original chart. It does have a working copy in here as well. But the chart is folded, so it doesn't actually fit into the, I don't know what's going on. But it is an original chart, so I don't know what's going on there. And I laughed because it's got this Crafts Canada tag, which again, it's a store that has been out of business for a ridiculous number of years. Long time. Okay. So this is a canvas work piece by, from Nancy's Needle, Tulips and Fans Quilt. Cheryl was looking at this one. She's like, ooh, I like this one. So whether I keep this or whether it accidentally shows up in Cheryl's hands is anybody's guess, because, you know, it's pink. It looks quite red on screen, but it really is pinks. This one, so Just Nan Perseverance. I was actually looking at this on a stash unloading thingy and was going to pull the pin, but then I forgot and it was gone. But I got it. This is $1. It says, the grass was green, the sun was hot. Sometimes I stitched and sometimes not. Roses bloomed and skies were blue, but perseverance brought me through. Pinks and blues and greens, that's all me. All right. Brittany's Quilt by Indigo Rose. This is an out of print. You can't get these anymore. This is the Stitchers stocking by Better Homes and Gardens. Leisure Arts Christmas Collection. So you get all of the charts to do these projects as well as these ones on the back. And now it says decorative mats. They are paper, so you know, but that's doable. So it does come with all the mats if you wanted to do it exactly as shown on the cover. $1. Agnes Horsburgh, 1844 by Samplers Not Forgotten. Now, you know I'm not terribly samplery, so I may keep this. This may end up in a giveaway. Won't tell you when. Springtime in My Garden by Samplers Not Forgotten. Elizabeth J.M. Mears, 1833 by Queenstown Samplers, because, you know, big house. I could see me just sort of stitching the house down and ignoring everything on top. This is another one by Queenstown Samplers. As I learned with Anne Morrison, quite frankly, if I just change a bunch of the colors, it turns into something. So I don't, you know, I'm not necessarily the antique reproduction-y. I don't do a ton of that. But if I change the colors on this. Now, the next batch, they're just random cross-stitch magazines that I got. I should cover this one because it's got somebody's name on it. So again, so here's an example of one where this is a 2-layer one. You cross-stitch the stuff that's in the windows. And then another piece is where you do all the other stuff. And again, I didn't even bother looking at what was in the magazine. I went, huh, that looks interesting. Pansies. Bouquets. Daisies. I got all of those magazines for $1. Okay, here is another canvas work piece. And I showed this to my friend and I was like going, I don't know that I will do these in these colors. And she's like, I'm pretty sure I have this at home kitted up in those colors and they're better than you think based on, again, cover photos don't necessarily do it justice. So I would need to look at this. But I know how expensive this book is. I got it for a steal. So whether I do this, you know, I'm trying to keep at least one canvas piece going in my rotation every year. Oh yeah, these ones I got. This came together. So this is a Stony Creek magazine, which I'm 100% certain I have it. I didn't care about the magazine. So the magazine's 100% going to end up as a giveaway at some point. I bought it because of the Lugana. I got this for $3. These ones are, again, these are for giveaways. There were some Teresa Wentzler patterns. I know that they're out of print. I know some people are still looking for them. because they're really hard to find. Those are for giveaways. This is a Stony Creek one, but still thematically along the same lines. This one, I got, sorry. Stony Creek Christmas. Came with its own piece of that out of discontinued Shenandoah Christmas linen. I bought it when I'm just getting it for that. We'll see what I end up doing with it. Now, it's just the one square, and then when I got home, I discovered they'd started the project on it. And so then I went into the book and went, what's being stitched on this is this little mouse. Yeah, it's a mouse with a wreath. So I'm going to unstitch this, and I'm going to see if I can't, this is technically a little too big, but I'm going to see if I can't work in a couple of these poinsettias on this one square, because I think that would be lovely. Life is a Song by Stony Creek. Now, I needed to get this. I bought this. I loaned it to one of my relatives. It never came home. Even through all the estate stuff, this never came home. And I love this treble clef, and I love it in the grains. I took one look at it and went, oh yeah, you're coming home. Because now I get to do my treble clef. It'll be awesome. Sarah Chapel by Sarah Chapel 1831 by Shakespeare's Peddler. Okay, I'm going to tell you this one right off the bat. This is going to be a giveaway at some point. Timing is utterly unknown. Hands Across the Sea Samplers. Amy Can 1831. I bought it. It was too good a deal to pass up. This is going to be a giveaway. Somebody's going to be thrilled to get this, and I'm going to be happy to give it to them. Okay, this one's really funny. The Drawn Thread. I've watched a Flosstube somewhere in the last 2 weeks. I swear somebody's working on this, or somebody's just is getting close to finishing this, and I was like, ugh. Like, I've seen them working on it on multiple videos. I actually had put this on a wish list. Anyway, I don't need, it's off the wish list now, because now I have it in my hot little hands. I can't help, honestly, self-restraint went out the window. So you know that I did the sampler of stitches last year by the Drawn Thread. Well, I was going through this box of charts at the Ujamaa Grandma's. This is the Toccata. So just like sampler of stitches, this is a 3-part chart for band 1, 2, and 3. Even if they hadn't had all 3, I probably would have gotten it anyway. But they had band 1, band 2, and band 3. I have them all. It was amazing. I've looked at this a number of times, and just honestly, when I've looked at it before, I was like going, you have sampler of stitches sitting at home, and I like sampler of stitches better than this one. Now, I'm probably going to change the color palette on this and make it more me, but sampler of stitches is done now. That thing that was holding me back from getting the chart, saying, like, you can't possibly justify spending the money and getting these charts because you haven't even done the 9-part series that you've already bought. Well, now I've done the 9-part series. So now I have these ones. Now, I do need to change the palette to be more me, but dear Specialty Stitches, there might come a year in my 5-year plan where I go, it's the year of just, this is a concept I'm working my way through, where I go, I'm going to call it the year of specialty stitches, and that everything that I work on that year has a bunch of specialty stitches. I'm so behind the scenes, I'm kind of working on this and what it might look like. And now it's not going to be for several years. Don't get excited. So I've got lots of time to figure it out. But let me know in the comments down below if you would be interested in doing a year of specialty stitches. Now again, not everybody would have to do everything. I'd be working on multiple pieces. Whether or not you'd be interested in participating in any kind of a number of cells over the course of that. I, of course, am looking at some Jeanette Douglas stuff that I've got in my stash. I've got a series where I'm going like, oh, that might be a really good for cell, because it would be one where you wouldn't have to do all of it. You know, she's got a number of charts, so you could just pick the ones that you actually were interested in and do those. You wouldn't have to participate in all of the pieces, and they're totally lovely as just standalone parts. So just, you know, behind the scenes, I'm working on what that might look like as one of the years coming up in the 5-year plan, of a year where all I do is I work on projects that have specialty stitches. Drawn thread, Just Nan, the Victoria Sampler, Jeanette Douglas, etc. Shepherd's Bush, Scatter Eggs, went lovely Eastery. Not a ton of stitches anyway, not too rabbity. You know, congratulations. I felt it was worth the $1. I did. Here's another Jeanette Douglas. Appalachian Spring. I didn't have this one, so that one came home. And they've shown it both, you know, as framed and as a needle roll. Now, I was going to look up what the copyright was on 2001. So this is, you know, 22 years old, still lovely. And I was kind of laughing because I remember when, like, there were needle rolls by everybody, and then needle rolls kind of went out of style. But I think if you brought them back as small pillows, Dobo fillers, like, I think it's coming back. So this is great. And then this is where I got distracted when I was pulling things together, because it was like, this is part of a series, and I'm like going, wait a minute, why don't I know about this series? So then I had to go to Jeanette's webpage and look it up. Did I write it down? I thought I'd written it down. So I didn't have spring, so now I have spring. The summer one has something to do with like summer waves, and it's all beach themed. That one I already had in stash. The winter one is a Rocky Mountain Christmas, which I already had in stash. And I think the fall one is like New England Autumn. Now, of the 4 seasons, autumn is my least favorite because color palette for the most part. So I don't have that one. I still don't have that one, but it may come as a surprise to you, but I know Jeanette Douglas, so I think if I really needed to get the fall one, I can get it, no problem. But yeah, it was like going, that one's coming home. Here's another, this is a canvas work piece to be made into an Easter egg shape. So it is a canvas work piece. I was looking, going, now don't get me wrong, I like those colors as is, but I could see sort of saying like, do 2 or 3 of them and just change the color palette up. Could be lovely. They've got, comes with a template, so you know how to make it into a, what's the size on this? Okay, bigger than you think. This is, yeah, finished as a tray insert, ornament, or box top. Oh yeah, the Victoria Sampler, Child of Spring. So the White Christmas that I did last year, same thing. So the Victoria Sampler, there are 4 charts so that you have one for each of the seasons. White Christmas is clearly the winter one. Believe it or not, I already had the autumn one in my stash. I did not have spring. Now, the thread packs for this are no longer available. But for the most part, this really only uses DMC products and 1 Karen Water Lilies Peach Sherbet. You know, Mill Hill beads, totally doable. Totally easy to kit up. So I'm probably going to go looking for that. Go and look for the water. it's called peach sherbet, but in the instructions for where it gets used to make this wreath, it says, when working with the silk, try to divide the wreath in roughly 6 areas of color: blue, pink, antique gold, then blue, pink, antique gold, and repeat. Peach sherbet to me doesn't necessarily scream blue, pink, antique gold, but if that's what peach sherbet and water lilies is looking like, I'm all over it. That was $1. Something special, quite frankly, I bought it just for this. Now, don't get me wrong. Yet again, this is an older design. Copyright 1983. So once you take off the funky pillow finishing, I think the design standalone is just lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Can't you see that in this room? And, sorry, oops. What's the size on this? Finished size on 14 count is 12 by 12, which I think is too big for me. So, and again, I think stitch it on a Verdal, bring it down, something a little smaller, do it as a, do it as a flat fold with that green and purple dotty fabric I got. Doesn't that sound like a good idea? Now, I got it just for this. This alone, again, this chart was $1. This alone sold me. I didn't realize until I got home that I got the charts for all of these as well. But I think this is going to turn into a stitching at the library piece. Not this year, but there's a year coming up where that's what I picked this for. This is going to turn into a stitching at the library project. Okay, and then we're down to the last two couple of things. Same thing, I just couldn't leave them there. Leisure Arts, Santa's Great Book. So the book of patterns. So this is a book of Leisure Arts Santa patterns of a variety of things. Now, if anybody wants me to do a flip through on this just to show you what's in this particular one, let me know. I got this for a steal of it. The price I paid for this is the equivalent of like a regular Leisure Arts leaflet. And last, but by no means least, again, this is one that as I was pulling all this stuff together, I went down the rabbit hole. Jim Shore monograms. Again, this is a booklet I have looked at online multitudes of times and just told myself I had enough stuff. Again, this was a steal of a deal at the Ujamaa Grandma's. It came home. It's got me thinking of a couple of different things, you know, whether it's just an individual thing. Now, I didn't know until I got home that they've also given you the charts to turn this into a birth sampler or a wedding sampler. And on the back, you know, so you can do entire words of this. The interesting thing is that on the inside they show it. I don't know that I would do Noel, but they do show joy. And I went, oh, that might be what I end up doing with this. Anyway, I've looked and looked and looked and looked and looked at this, and I've never pulled the pin until I saw it at the Grammy Ujamaas, and I pulled the pin and it came home. Now, I'm just looking around, going, yes, I think that's all that I have to show you today. As I said, it really was Haul-a-Palooza. All of everything that I've showed you in this haul came from the Ujamaa Grandma's sale. I might have called it Grammy Ujamaas. I get the words mixed up. It was a fantastic sale. It was a fantastic sale. Tons of people, like I say, had a wonderful conversation with that lovely teacher, and I appreciate the fact that she is there going, I can get an amazing deal for crafting supplies for kids in my school in a low-income neighborhood that I can purchase for them and gift to them to send them home so that they can do crafting at home, which I think is amazing, 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 amazing. you know, so I'm great. Yeah, I think I told the story about the weekend that I went there and I went and dropped off my carload, and it really was, you know, my family threw everything. Like we did a car, no, it wasn't an SUV load. It really was a carload of things that we've donated. I did see one of the half-done needlepoint pictures that my mother had started. I saw it walking out the door. I almost went to talk to the lady, but I don't know why she was buying it. I don't know if she was buying it so she could complete it. I don't know if she was buying it just so she could get the scroll rods off of it. I don't know how much she paid for it. None of that is relevant. I was just going like, so I talked to my mom where I said, like, I at least saw some of the stuff that we donated walking out the door, hopefully to a really good home. And, you know, we already have it in our plans that, you know, we will be, you know, clearly I don't know when the 2024 sale is going to be, but we already have things scheduled into our personal calendars about making sure that we are going through things and getting ready, because we are planning on donating again to Ujamaa Grandma's Fabric and Yarn sale next year again. And like I say, as I theoretically work through soft finishes, stay tuned. You know, like I say, if I decide I've got too many books, like I say, all those fabric sample books, all of them together, $2. Seriously. You know, and if I decide I've got too many of them and I don't, you know, I've used what I need and I don't need, like I'm done with whatever, I'm donating them back so somebody else can have a crack at them. Anyway, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you've enjoyed Haula-Palooza and Coronation stitching. If you watched the Coronation, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on that. I certainly have a number of thoughts on a variety of topics. Like I say, I was really disappointed we didn't do Tiara Land, really, because then I felt like I couldn't wear my tiara today. It's not like I have like a regular opportunity to do tiara things, but anyway, I hauled out my fascinator. Anyway, I hope you've had a great week. I'm looking at the forecast for this week saying there is a little bit, the temperatures have cooled off. Last week was awesome. Sunny and warm. Great for me. Horrendous for the forest fires. Temperatures are a little cooler this week with some rain in the forecast, not nearly as much as we need. So I've got no issues with the cooler temperatures. Bring on the cooler temperatures, bring on the rain, particularly in the northern part of the province where the wildfires are. That would be awesome. The following week, it gets back up to like, we are going to be in May, the current forecast. Now where I live, they could give you the forecast for tomorrow, and by tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, the entire forecast has changed. So I'm not betting on anything, but sort of not this week, but the next week in the lead up to the long weekend, fantastic temperatures, like 25 degrees Celsius, 27 degrees Celsius. So high 70s, low 80s, lovely, lovely, lovely. You know, I had a Slurpee this week. I also had the interesting experience where I was like going, you're not allowed to do single-use plastics anymore. So when you get a Slurpee, you also get the, because the plastic cup that it comes in is recyclable, so that's okay. But the straws have been changed to biodegradable straws. And I tried it the one time and went like, we're never going to do that again, because the problem is I can't drink my Slurpee fast enough before the straw is disintegrating in the beverage. So I did come home. I tried it, and then not, you know, that day I was like going, okay, this is going into the green the green compostable bin for recycling, and had to get out my metal reusable straw because I'm like, and done. I'm not even going to bother even bringing one of those home again when I get my next Slurpee, which I'm hoping to get like not this week, but next week when we're back into the glorious temperatures, hopefully when wildfires have tamed down. So all for rain to help out. Is it wrong to say it'd be really lovely if it was, we need the rain too. I was going to say rain only in the north. It's like, that's not true. We need the rain too. So a lovely mix of rain and sun would be just lovely. But yeah, thinking of the firefighters, again, thinking of the people who've lost homes, who have been displaced, their entire towns that everybody's had to be evacuated because of the fire situations. So thinking about all of them. Again, if you are living anywhere close to those areas, pack yourself your go bag now. I can't stress that enough, because if it will help out in case things turn on you quickly. So as always, thinking of the people of the Ukraine. There have been a number of incidents, of course, globally. Anyway, lots of things. Unfortunately, this world is not perfect. There's always people who are struggling and have sad things going on. And anyway, with that, I hope that you are staying safe, because safety first, safety first, safety first, safety first. I do have a big kick about being safe. Please be safe. I hope you're staying healthy. I hope you're finding some time to do some stitching, and I look forward to seeing you next week, where hopefully I will have had a really good, productive, stitchy week and less counting errors and fabric errors, and I hope it will be amazing next week. Fingers crossed. Take care, and I'll see you next week.